Crew, excited to be here with you once again every single week talking diabetes. Today we're talking diabetes real talk, getting into the mental health side, but also kind of revisiting this podcast episode from this week on goal setting. How do we, essentially guarantee success within our programs? How is that possible? And really it boils down to asking the right questions and making sure that we're on the same page with clients when they're starting their journey. And if we're not, identifying what that gap looks like. So today we're going to cover a bit about motivation, how to know if you're getting close to burnout. For me, what my journey looked like in setting goals that challenge me, like this crazy Olympic distance triathlon that I registered for, and it's coming up. I've got 3 weeks total to train for it, which is insane, but I'm pumped about it. And ultimately looking at mental health as it relates to, and it kind of is intertwined into all of this. So as you're unfamiliar with who I am, I'm showing up on your feed for the first time. My name is Matt Van de Vecht. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I'm also a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist. So living with diabetes, those have come in handy. They actually happened because I was diabetic. I actually got diagnosed, didn't know what I was doing for a decade, and then decided, hey, I'm going to go figure out how to master this blood sugar thing by studying exercise, nutrition, diabetes, blood sugars, metabolism. And it's been a fantastic journey of understanding and experimentation along the way. But in getting here, now I've been above 90% time in range for years on end, every single week, 96, 92, 91, 97, right? That doesn't happen by accident. And it was a goal that I set for myself many years ago to maintain that standard of excellence as somebody who coaches other diabetics. And I was like, I got to make sure that I know what I'm doing and that I'm taking care of myself so that I then can take care of others and share what I've learned. So it's been a journey. It's been a process. It's been a lot of trial and error through my experimentation alongside my research. But those goals weren't always the healthiest. And I wanted to share that with you guys today because you might see me on here talking about 90% time in range, 100% time in range. I mentioned in this last week's podcast a couple of days ago that I have, I've been 100% time in range for every single workout for my entire triathlete existence. 6 months ago, I impulsively made a decision to join a sprint triathlon. My pastor challenged me to do it. I said yes. I was like, sure, let's do it. And it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And then now I've got 3 weeks, actually at this point, 2.5 weeks until an Olympic distance triathlon. I'm just continuing to push. But the reality is that you might not be in a place where you're ready to set ridiculous goals like that. Right now, timing lined up, life is crazy. It's definitely chaotic right now. There's a lot going on. I'm still considering myself a relatively new parent, and we bought a house and moved cities and all this crazy stuff alongside these new challenges that I'm taking on. But for me, that drive came from a few different aspects, a few different areas of life. And today we're talking about the spectrum of motivation and where you might sit on that and how it relates to your mental health overall. So good to see you here too. Someone on Facebook, good to be here. Good to see you. So I was a few minutes late today because my blood sugars were a little bit high, actually. Went for a little walk. And upon coming back from my walk, my sister, who was helping me watch Brooklyn so I could do this live, her CGM alarm went off for a low. And I was like, what? I'm not low. There's no way it's my sister. It's one of the joys of having two diabetics in the same family is that every once in a while you hear an alarm and you're like, wait, that's not me. And it's kind of funny. Anyways, she's okay now. I went and grabbed her some honey, and that's why I was a couple minutes late. But today I want to talk to you about this idea that we all need to push for 90%, 100% time in range, or the 4.9 A1C. And while those are good goals from a healthy physical health standpoint, they might not always be the healthiest goals mentally. And for me, this was a journey many years ago where I had to decide if I wanted to maintain 100% time in range, like all the time, but live a restricted lifestyle, where I said no to a lot of family and friends events. I restricted my carbs. It just wasn't a great relationship with food. I was scared to do different types of exercises that were over an hour because I was like, well, I've never done that before. And I realized I was living in this place of restriction that while my diabetes on paper might look perfect, it just wasn't worth it to me to live my life like that long term. Right. And my endo was high fiving me. She's like, I don't know how you're doing that, but this is fantastic. Your numbers are essentially non diabetic. I'm like, cool. Glad you appreciate this because I don't enjoy this, right? I'm not having a good time. And I had to reevaluate my goal setting system. Like what is the true end goal? If I get to the end of my life and I've had 100% time and range the entire time, but that is all I have. Like if I don't have memories with family, if I don't have jokes with friends, if I don't have experiences through life, is it worth it? The answer was, of course not. That's not worth it at all. The goal of life isn't to conquer diabetes and that's it, right? Like that's the bare minimum. But I realized that I might have to give up my 100% time and ranges in order to accomplish more quality of life, to have more flexibility, to not prioritize diabetes that much. And so for me, it was a matter of taking a step back from perfection or near perfection and giving myself a little bit of leeway and some grace. And in that journey, of course, over the course of the next few years following that, did a lot of research because I didn't want to give up my health. I still wanted to take care of my blood sugars, but I wanted to have more flexibility, more freedom with my choices, right? The types of foods that I eat. I wanted to go back to pizza and pasta and burritos and hamburgers at least every once in a while to have the option to do that, right? I wanted to be able to go for long bike rides with my family, to go for hikes like we ended up doing in Hawaii that were like 10 hours long. Like I wanted to be able to live my life and thrive with diabetes, not just survive with diabetes. And so it kind of allowed me to spend some more time looking at new ways to build adaptable strategies where I could go have pizza, but still stay mostly in range, right? Instead of perfect flatline blood sugars, it's okay if I spike to like 150 and come back down. Cool. Like you still nailed it, right? And so for me, it was a matter of crafting that plan where I'm good on both sides. I'm healthy, but I'm also happy. And that's a big goal of the programs that we coach now is finding that balance between healthy and happy, where blood sugars are great, right? Predictable, stable, but you're also able to live your life. You're not locked in to one specific low carb or keto diet. You're not scared of the lows that might happen if you are to go for a bike ride or a run or play with your kids, right? That's the big goal that we're after now is finding the balance. And so in this last week's podcast episode, I wanted to clarify something that might have come across a little bit aggressive, which is how it was meant for the most part, because there is a cut and dry line of, are you committed or not? Right. And that was the big question that we ask our clients is this just a goal for funsies, or are you committed to this outcome? Like, will you do whatever it takes? And if you're committed, you're going to accomplish it, right? It's just a matter of how long it's going to take and what you're going to have to do. That's it. And so the idea behind the podcast was, if you are committed to figuring out your blood sugars, you'll do it. I have no doubt that you will. But most people aren't at that place where they're ready to commit to make that a true priority, not just say it's a priority, but act upon that, right? And I wanted to add a caveat there that that's okay. It's okay if it's not truly a commitment right now, right? Everyone's at different places with their diabetes. Myself, diabetes wasn't a commitment for like 5 years living with it. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't really care. And I wasn't ready to accept that mentally. I had to work my way through those 5 stages of grief, right? And so understanding that, if you're not ready to commit to your diabetes, to your health, that's fine, right? I'm not going to judge you for that. But also understanding that we have different levels that we're aiming for. Somebody like myself or a lot of my clients are more high achievers looking for that 99% time in range with flexibility and freedom in life. Whereas somebody else might say, hey, look, I'd be happy with 70% time in range and just not dying. It's like, okay, cool. If you're committed to that, great. Let's move forward to that, right? And you can always reassess and change goals later, but recognizing that if you're not ready to commit to a specific goal and you feel like you should be questioning why you feel like you should be. Like that's the question we want to identify and potentially even consider giving yourself some grace, letting yourself off the hook a little bit and be like, all right, I was trying to challenge myself to get 100% time in range and it's just not happening. The reality is that either I haven't given it enough effort, enough time, or I don't know what to do. But whatever it is, I need to remember that grace is okay, right? It's okay to say, man, I gave it my best shot, but it just didn't work. I'm not a bad person because I can't figure out my blood sugars, right? And giving yourself that room to breathe without the guilt. I think that's an important lesson that I wanted to share with you guys today. And this, of course, like everything else in life, requires balance. You can't just give yourself grace for everything and be like, I don't feel motivated to take insulin today for the 50th day in a row. At a certain point, it becomes stupid to continue giving yourself grace because you ultimately, with this disease, could die. And so there does have to be a day where you kick yourself in the pants and you're like, all right, it's time to get moving. It's time to prioritize this thing because diabetes will demand your attention if you continue to ignore it long enough. I've been there. But what is important is that you don't have to be motivated 24/7. This disease has no finish line. It's okay to pause, to reflect, to reset. It's okay to give yourself grace, to acknowledge the hardship and the challenges that we have to face day in and day out. It's a lot that goes on with diabetes, right? And we don't get a true break from this. There is no, hey, just give me an hour where I can completely forget that I have diabetes, right? The only way to get close to that is to have mastery over your blood sugars, which takes effort up front. And so there is no, I need a break right now. There is potentially, I need a break tomorrow, next week, next month, once I've figured it out. But this disease is crazy hard, right? If you're thrown into it and expected to learn everything on the go, on the fly. And so if you're not getting your goals, if you're not hitting your dream A1C, for me, I was like, maybe I can get it into the fours. And I was holding myself to that standard for years and I just couldn't hit it. And I had to take a step back. And I'm like, why is an A1C in the fours that important to me? Is it just a metric? Is it just vanity that I'm after, just to be able to show it off? And ultimately, I had to reassess and continue to remap out my goals. And I was like, you know what? Fives is healthy. I feel good about that. And as long as I can do so without going low all the time, I think this is still a good spot to be in. So, 5.7 became my new standard of maintenance. And that's where I was like, all right, I'm going to do this instead. So the goals that you see on the internet, you might see me posting about 100% time in range and constantly 90%. You don't have to copy and paste my goals. And in fact, I would recommend against it because my goals have my story, my context, my experience wrapped around them, right? Your goals could look completely different. Maybe your goal is a lower A1C because you're at 13 and you want to get it to an 8, right? Which by my standard, I want to get it into the fives, like I just said, right? But we can't compare standards, especially because we have other things in life that might be going on. So both your goals might differ and your timeline might differ. So if you're trying to set, really challenging goals, it's okay to pause, reflect, and say, you know what, this really isn't as much of a priority right now. I need to go into maintenance mode and just keep it where it's at while I get back on my feet. Maybe something else in life is throwing you off, right? And with that, giving yourself some grace, you'll be able to identify strategies that are more tailored for the long term, right? That will allow you to keep them up. Diabetes isn't a sprint. It never has been. Yes, you can sprint. I mean, we teach people how to hit their first 90% time in range in 5 days or less. We have a whole challenge on mapping out the strategies for you. It's possible. And everyone who's gone through that has reported massive success. So it's possible, but it's not required. And I think that that's an important distinction to recognize with diabetes is that you don't have to be motivated 24/7. I mean, you got to do what's necessary to survive, but you can't sprint forever, right? And that's a lesson that I learned today on my run. I ran for 4.3 miles, which for me is a lot. I mean, I am very proud of that for today because I don't like running. And I was like, I can't do that twice in a row, right? I cannot sprint forever or run forever. I need breaks. And you might need breaks with your diabetes. It's totally fine. So, obviously, continue to take care of yourself. Breaks do not mean to not take insulin or not count carbs or something, that might put your health at risk. And this is not medical advice. This is just me sharing one person to another, one diabetic to another, that it's okay to give yourself grace. It's okay to not be a high achiever all the time, right? If you have a moment where you want to get to the root of your diabetes struggles and frustrations and put intentional efforts behind it, and you're like, all right, I can sprint right now. I'm feeling good mentally. Like, I can handle this. I have the capacity to do this. Great. Reach out. Happy to see if we can help. Right. But if not, don't think that you have to match my goals. Don't think you have to match our client's success of 100% time and range for a half marathon, because that was incredible, but that's not what everybody's doing. Right. That's a highlight. She did an amazing job, but there are still hiccups in everyone's lives, mine included. Before this live, I was a little bit high. I had to go for a walk, right? Took some insulin. So don't hold yourself to the highest of highs. Don't compare. Set your own goals. Find what's realistic and long-term. Yes, do challenge yourself with your goals and commit to them, but recognize that you can't sprint forever. It's okay to give yourself some grace. All right. So I hope this one was helpful for you guys. This is more of a mindset and mental health piece for you. See, on Instagram, we got somebody who's aiming for a 6.3 with their A1C. Love it. Is it enough to test HbA1c once a year? That's going to differ person to person. I only test mine once a year, sometimes twice a year if I'm curious, or if there was a big lifestyle change. That's important to recognize as well, if you think it's changed dramatically. But mine's been coasting very similarly. It's basically the same number every time because I've got my formulas that I use. You guys know that, right? The 80/20 blood sugar formula. And so because of that, my endo even tells me, like, hey, you don't need to come in more than once a year just so we can continue running like your eye exams and foot exams and re-up your prescriptions and all that. So I would say that if your A1C is a little bit higher, and this isn't medical advice, this is just me speculating, I would personally want to go in more often if I wasn't as healthy as I am right now, right? If there was any area of my diabetes that I wanted help with, or metrics to track my progress or lack thereof, that's when I would want to go in more often. But if you've already reached your goal and it's a matter of maintaining that goal, for me, I don't think it's as necessary to go as often if there's not a reason to, unless your endo demands it. Because I've seen some people that their endo says you have to come in or I'm not writing your prescription for insulin, which is super messed up. And I am completely against that. But, everyone's got their own issues they got to. Thelma on YouTube says, thanks for the real talk about diabetes and relaying the message to your audiences. Absolutely. Diabetes is crazy. It's tough. I want you guys to know you're not alone in this, and everyone deals with this too. You guys might see my highlight reel on here and be like, oh my gosh, Matt is just, his diabetes is easy to control and his stuff is perfect. It's not. I also have days where I'm like, gosh, dang it, I hate my diabetes. There's still days where I don't feel motivated. I had a client ask me on a recent coaching call. Fantastic question, vulnerable. I thought it was amazingly strong of this person to ask, but basically said, I know what to do, but I don't want to do it. I'm having a hard time getting motivated. And that's the real of diabetes. We're going to hit days like that. So it's a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people, with winners, right? You don't want to surround yourself with losers. They're going to drag you down. You're going to tell them, I don't feel like taking care of my diabetes today. They're going to be like, good, don't. And you're like, wait, but I'll die. So be careful with who you surround yourself with, and then build those those frameworks, those plans to catch you when you fall, right? So when I have a bad day, it's like diabetes isn't going nuts. I'm not dipping to 50% time in range or anything, because I've got strategies that I can lean on. And those frameworks are what save me from spiraling out of control, which is what used to happen. It used to be a low, and then I go super high, super low, super high, super low, and it's exhausting. The blood sugar roller coaster, you guys probably are familiar with the two. Having frameworks you can lean on, like a blood sugar formula, enables you to take a breather, right? To get your head above the water and go, then get some air so you can continue swimming. That's an analogy for you from the triathlon. All right. So, wow. I had a comment on Instagram, memory of my type 1 sibling lost in December at age 49. That's really tough. Thank you for sharing that. That's tough. Yeah, my sister, who just took off, she's type 1 as well, and we definitely give each other strength. Being able to have a community, or at least another person that gets it. And so I love having y'all here, being surrounded by people who get it. This is where you find your strength. And it's important to be careful of who in the type 1 community you follow, who you surround yourself with, because there are people who are toxic, right? There are people who would tell you carbs are the enemy and you should restrict your food, or you can't exercise. A lot of people focus on the negatives. You can't do this. You can't eat that. You can't live a long life. And it can drag you down and make you depressed. I've certainly been there in the past. You want to be cautious about that. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with positive people who see the light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, we got a message before. I must have missed it. Donating towards your ride to cure with diabetes. I don't know which rides that would be, but we actually do make donations to diabetes events, and they're a lot of fun. I actually just went to a Crohn's walk with my wife. So it's important to support others as well, not just demand everybody comes to walk for diabetes, right? I went and walked for the Crohn's and colitis walk. Let's check out the other comments you got here. All right, YouTube. Michael says, hey, I have a question. I've been told I'm type 1, diagnosed at age 20 in 2020. But lately I've noticed when I'm more active on my feet, I cut with Tresiba dose by 33%. Do you think I'm type 2? Well, can't give medical advice on here, especially if I don't have a client relationship with y'all. But I would say that a lot of people recognize that as you're more active, you increase insulin sensitivity, which oftentimes can lead to a reduction of insulin being a useful strategy. Myself, I do something similar, but I don't want to go too in depth into the medical realm, because that's a tricky question with lots of nuance. And I would say that's the best introduction to that answer I can give you on this platform. But feel free to reach out. Happy to get more specific in an email or a DM. Someone on Facebook says it's a full-time job. Yes, it is. It 100% is. And then Ronnie says, I love roller coasters, but diabetes ones I dislike. 100%. Roller coasters are amazing, but diabetes is the one roller coaster I never want to ride. So anyways, guys, I hope this is helpful. I got to hop off and have some coaching moments with some clients of mine, which they're incredible, as you guys probably seen on our case study videos. But remember to give yourself some grace. Challenge yourself, set high goals, hold yourself to high standards, but remember that you don't have to be a high performer 100% of the time. You're allowed to have breaks. I do too. There's days where I don't want to do diabetes, and I'll resort back to the bare minimum. I'm like, all right, we're not shooting for 100 today. I'm not even going to shoot for 95, 92. We're just going to get by. I'm just going to try to not have too many highs and lows, and we'll try again tomorrow. So just a dose of reality for you guys, some diabetes real talk. I hope you found this helpful, and would love to hear from you guys if you need support, help, have questions. Like you, Michael, if you have a question, you want to chat more about diabetes and exercise, happy to have that chat. I'm here for you guys. So someone on Facebook, great person you are. You're too kind. We're all dealing with this thing, right? And I'm proud of you guys for putting the effort in, showing up, learning on these lives, trying to figure it out. Today, obviously, is a bit more mental health related and not as tactical with what to do with blood sugars, but I think that it's important to recognize that mental health is still part of diabetes management, because if you don't take care of your mental health, you're not going to want to take care of anything else. It doesn't matter if you know exactly what to do if you're not doing it. And we're less likely to do it if we don't take care of our mental health. So it starts in the head. You get the ideas, you get the motivation, there's community, and then you can start to implement with the strategies. All right. On YouTube, LTLT says, Matt, you are changing my life with your videos. I found that I was type 1 and I was 34 years old. Happy to have you here. I really am. For anybody who is watching from YouTube or anywhere else, we're actually going to be putting a lot more attention towards YouTube. We're doing some crazy stuff right now. I was about to break, I almost spilled the beans, but we've got some exciting stuff specifically geared towards YouTube. So if you're not yet, you should subscribe over there. We got some fun projects. But happy to have y'all here. Seriously. Ryan says, I appreciate the motivational messages. You got it. And Facebook, we got love listening to you. Great inspiration you are. You guys are way too nice. You're going to start making me get choked up. So that's all I got for you guys today. Just a quick one where we get real about diabetes. So hope you guys are doing okay. And it's okay to not be okay. But remember, you have support in the type 1 community. We're all in this together, right? Just make sure you're reaching out to the right people, that they're not dragging you down. You want people who are going to lift you up. All right. So you guys are awesome, but I got to take off. I see some comments coming in. I'll hit you guys on those platforms as I see your comments floating in. But thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll catch you guys every week, Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, drop some comments with questions you have, or feel free to reach out. Happy to respond when I get some time in my days. All right. You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys next time.